Hello, hello. Welcome, y'all. It's your girl, Coach Christal. Welcome again to Wisdom Wednesday. Wisdom Wednesday is a podcast weekly that I get to talk to people who are inspiring. I'm inspired by people I'm learning from. And tonight you have a special combination of the two. You will see and chat with tonight Charles Sands, who's the CEO of Loving Laundry and the Hub. And we're going to get into a little bit of the backstory of how that came to be. But if you're just new to our community, I want to welcome you inside the Steps and Stages community with our mantra that just says, a lot of things happened before this, and I guarantee a lot of things are going to happen after this. But I promise to be here with you now. Please be here with me now. And you're here 10 days before I've given out one of the most prolific gifts we've ever given out in the world. On August 19th from noon to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I am taking care of personally everyone's general admission ticket to Vision Camp Virtual. That's right. I apologize for those of you who have paid for it in the past. Don't worry. I got some other gifts coming for you. But if you've never been to Vision Camp Live or Vision Camp Virtual, this is your opportunity to take me up on one of the, I think, gifts and curses of my character is that I just love to give, right? So if you go over to ssvisioncamp.com right now, you can register and secure your seat. When all the Zoom seats are full, it's full. So that's all I can do. ssvisioncamp.com, grab your seat to Vision Camp Virtual, and I promise you, you will not regret it. So tonight, y'all, we get to talk to Charles Sands, who has been to Vision Camp and has now created two very amazing businesses that are very different from his previous career. But he is actually living the vision. And I know y'all hear me talk about why vision is so important all the time, but I wanted to make sure that not only you hear me talk about it, but you see it come to life in real people. So please help me welcome Charles Sands. Hey, Charles.
Hi, Coach Christal. How are you doing? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm amazing. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks so much for having me here. And good evening to everyone.
No, it's amazing. You're actually tuning in from inside the vision. Am I right?
Yeah. So I'm actually inside of the laundromat office. So if you're seeing wires or something, if you see someone walking past me, then my apologies in advance, but we're still open and I'm still working. So
it's okay. I love it. I love it. Charles. So I mentioned the two businesses. Tell us a little bit about Loving Laundry and the Hub.
Thank you. So Loving Laundry is a standalone laundry delivery service. And so if you have ever used a delivery service for your laundry, then that's the business that covers that. So essentially, residents in the community. Right now, we prioritize the Bronx and Upper Manhattan. Mm-hmm. And so you order through our website, you set up your pickup date, your time, you can leave it outside of your door, and we will have a driver come by, collect your laundry, wash and fold, and bring it back to you with whatever specifications you have.
Yeah.
That business also does commercial work. And so, for example, this summer, we had our first summer camp contract with the Fresh Air Fund. And so we drove upstate to Fishkill, collected laundry for campers who were spending their like a 3-week session over in Fresh Air Fund. And we brought their laundry and we did it and delivered it back to them. So that's a standalone delivery laundry business.
Wow.
And then the hub is the physical laundry mat. So it's a location that you can walk into, use our washers and dryers, and get your laundry done. And so those are the two businesses that I was able to one create and both own.
I love it. I love it. First of all, congratulations. And I know, but they don't know, Charles. Like, what's the backstory on this? Have you always been in the laundry business? Like, is this a family thing? Did you inherit this?
If someone would have told me that I'd be sitting in this in a laundromat office, and that this would be my full-time pursuit, I wouldn't have believed them. So for the past 18 years of my profession, I was in nonprofit management, and so essentially, it sounds as boring as it is, but I was managing nonprofit programs in the city of New York, focusing mostly on youth development. So anything from camp-based programs, after-school programs, managing government contracts, working with the city, working with private funders and donations, kind of that ran the gamut of what I was doing: hiring, developing, training staff, managing budgets, all fundraising. All of that was kind of under my purview, and so that was what I was doing and pursuing. That's what I got my degrees in. I got my master's in public administration at Baruch, all so I could pursue that endeavor. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was my path, and that I was going to eventually take over an existing nonprofit organization and kind of run it the way that I wanted to run it. And so I was climbing the corporate ladder, and then things took a turn. So
yeah. So they took a turn, and this sounds like it turned you down the road of freedom. But I mean, I know it didn't feel like that at first.
So it was freedom, but it wasn't the freedom I was looking for. Mm-hmm. So the short version that I'll share is that I was essentially laid off. And it really came as a shock to me. And it was kind of one of those things that, had it never happened, I wouldn't be here talking to you about this right now, right? So, because I was convinced that this was the path that I was going to take. And someone came along and reminded me that when I work for a company, I am not in control of, I'm not really in control of much. And I'm not saying that to cast any shadow on working for a company, but it was just kind of a wake-up call for me that there was nothing was secure, and I thought it was secure. I was driving the car that I'd always wanted. I bought a home. My wife and I, we have 2 kids together. They were both in private school, and so I was just, hey, I have a salary. I have this coming in, and so things were as far as I knew, going on the course that I wanted it to go. And the agency that I worked for had other plans. And so I was called in, I think it was a Friday. Mm-hmm. I was called in Friday morning. The meeting lasted about 20 minutes. HR was there, and they let me know that was my last day with the organization. And they said, you can either stay the whole day or you can leave early. And I said, you know what, I'm going to get out of here.
Yeah.
So that was the end of that for me.
Wow. So, okay, that's the backstory here. Then we get into now being the CEO of 2 companies, right? Like, we sometimes think of the pivot as something that has to be so in line with what we've already known, right? So this is not something that your degrees are in, right? This is not something that you inherited from the family business. This is a totally new direction. Now, how did you, I just want, for the people out there, Charles, I just want to illuminate this, because many of us get stuck in the how, and we never do anything. We get stuck in that cycle of research. Or it could be this, and then it could be that, and then it could be, and then we never actually take action. What moved you from, I can't believe this is not going my way, to I found another way?
So I think, just as a reference point, I'm actually looking back at the notes that I took from the vision camp I was in. So the vision camp that I attended was October 19th, 2021.
Okay.
So almost 3 years to the date, just to give people a sense of how much time we're talking about, right? Like this was not a few weeks. This was not a few months.
Right.
This was literally years of rediscovering who I was apart from this professional pursuit that I had. And one of the things, and you and I spoke about this a bit, that I had lost the ability to do was and I'm just being vulnerable here. I lost the ability to dream. I didn't know. So when I got laid off, my immediate response was, I'm going to send out my resume to all of my contacts. I'm going to get back, I'm going to go on Indeed. I'm going to go on these websites. I'm going to post my resume. I'm going to get back into another organization. I'm going to make the organization that laid me off regret that they laid me off. Right. Like that's the mindset that I have.
Yeah.
And a good friend of mine told me to really take a step back and use this as an opportunity to really figure out what it was that I wanted to do, right? Like rather than running away from something, the goal was to run towards something. And that really kind of paused me, because I was hurt. you know, my ego was bruised. And so, but I didn't know what to do. And literally I was on Facebook and I saw your post about the Vision Camp. And I said, I've spent money on far less important things in my life. Like, what's the worst that can happen, right? Literally, that was my thinking. What's the worst that could come out of this? And the pre-session that we had, the pre-work that we did, the one-on-one coaching that you did with me prior to me attending the Vision Camp, was some of the most critical information that I had access to. And to this day are things that really helped to guide me. And you mentioned one of them already, which was about not worrying about the how. I don't know if other people can relate to this, but I'm an extreme overthinker. I will ruminate over something for weeks. I'll plan it to the T, but the action sometimes may never happen because I'm just stuck in the fear of, well, what if this happens and what if this doesn't happen, and I can't predict this, and so really kind of having that conversation with you about not getting so stuck in the why was really important. One of the other things, and I'm actually looking at my notes here just because I wanted to highlight.
I just want to say amen to the notes. Do you see that, y'all? Like, you come to Vision Camp, we do work. This is not entertainment. It's real work.
No, I couldn't get away with this. So this was all part of the pre-work. So I couldn't just get away with this and not do this before getting to Vision Camp. And it really did maximize the time I had in Vision Camp because I'd already done this work. So the conversations that were available at Vision Camp, it was more of an accompaniment versus me trying to then get acclimated into it. So there you go. So the other thing that really stuck out that you said was discipline is the highest form of self-love. And that particularly, I made side notes to that because I was like, if I had to be honest, I was not loving myself because I was not really disciplined in pursuing the things that were important to me. And obviously there are many other things that I can kind of talk about here, but I think the last thing that was really pivotal that I'll mention was, you said earlier that this is a different industry than the one that I was in, and kind of how did I get from where I was to where I am?
Yeah.
One thing that I've been telling people who I talk to about my journey is that I think that's from the way that I'd seen it was one of the biggest misconceptions that I had, because I was so focused on, these are the jobs that I've worked in, these are the degrees that I've earned, and so I'm limited to this particular field. For the last 18 years, all I did was nonprofit. So in my mind, I wasn't suited for anything but nonprofit. And it had to be a specific field. It had to be a specific title. I couldn't imagine things outside of that. And one of the things that the Vision Camp did for me was it forced me to pare down to my core skills, dreams, attributes, personalities, values. And then when I was able to do that, everything became open. So it wasn't just about, okay, I know how to process contracts. Well, what is it about processing contracts that what's the skill involved in doing that?
Right.
And how can I take that skill and apply it to any other industry, any other field?
Yeah.
So when I think about nonprofit management and laundry, I see them as the same thing now, because the skills involved that I bring to the table are transferable. Whether I'm doing that, I could be running a fast food restaurant, I could be running an automotive company. This could be any other business in the world, because now I'm thinking about my core skills, my core values, and not just what my resume says about me, what my degree says about me, what I have on a performance review. Now it's about what are the actual things that I bring, and how can I use those in whatever endeavor I'm taking on.
I love that, because one of the core values that I hear seeping through is service.
Yes.
And that's been a part of what you've been doing in the nonprofit industry forever.
Service and communication. I tell people, laundromats are, yes, at their core, people want their clothes washed.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they want it washed, they want it dried. But they're also coming for community.
Yeah.
Laundromats are one of the most consistent businesses in any community. Doesn't matter how wealthy that community is, doesn't matter. They're on the poverty line.
Yeah.
A laundromat is a mainstay. And you realize that when you're in the laundromats, I tell people all the time, there's more tea in the laundromat than there is on any daytime shows.
Right.
Speak a lick of Spanish, but I promise you, I can get most of like who they're talking about from the neighborhood, what's going on. If you want to know anything about anything that's happening in your neighborhood, you sit in a laundromat for 20 minutes and you'll have all the information you need. So the conversation, the connection, people come, they see their friends, they see their family, they make new friends. Community exists in a laundromat in a way that I never knew.
Yeah.
But like you said, but the connections are there when you're looking at it differently.
Yeah. Yeah. How has your perspective just on yourself in these last 2 years expanded, Charles? I mean, to hear you take us through this journey of like Vision Camp in 2021, it's about to be 2023, right? And then moving from being a nonprofit executive into a CEO of 2 laundromat / community engagement hubs. Like what have you seen differently in yourself?
I mean, I appreciate that question. And I even sometimes like hesitate to talk to people about my story, because I feel like they're seeing, this isn't the end, but it's like they're seeing, they didn't see me go through the process.
Yeah.
So like, I know when I'm listening to someone else, I'm thinking, oh yeah, that person had resources, that person already had a line or some connection. You can tell they're gonna do something big, and it's like, they don't relate to me. They don't have my situation.
Yeah.
I try to give as much of the backstory as I can, because I don't want people to think that the version that's talking to them now is the version that existed before. It really didn't. You couldn't tell me that I'd be doing this. You couldn't convince me I'd be doing this, because I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
So for me being here, and I told this to Coach Christal reached out to me because she's seeing my story on Facebook. She reached out to me and asked if I would come and do this session. And I told her for her, I would, because it was an opportunity for me to give back to her something that I didn't think I was going to be able to get for myself. So talking to other people about this when I myself couldn't see it is, in my own way, this is a bit of confirmation for me that I'm even here speaking to other people about this, when not that long ago I was on unemployment, surviving off of severance for about 2.5 years before my delivery business actually started. Like I had to trade in my car. I was driving a Lexus and I couldn't afford the payments anymore because I wasn't working. And I had to trade it in for some beat down SUV that's like 2006 that I still drive to this day.
Yeah. It's a good delivery vehicle.
That's it, right? I can haul people, I can haul laundry. And it was humbling, because it was like I was so used to a certain lifestyle. I was used to a status. I was used to providing. My kids were making bless my kids, but my kids were like, hey, you know, remember that job you used to have? You know, like my kids crack jokes on me, so I think they were trying to like lighten my spirits, but it
Yeah.
was hurting my soul though, you know, to have to deal with that. But
Right.
we couldn't eat out as much as we did before. We couldn't take vacation the way that we used to take vacation.
Mm-hmm.
So many things. I could go on and on about what that transition process was like before getting to where I am now. So I just want to hopefully convey to people that the journey may not look the way that you expect it to look.
Yeah.
And I can honestly say that there's a beauty in that now. Like when I was going through it, it was terrifying. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, now that I'm here in the office of a business that I own, I still have to kind of pinch myself a bit. So
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's like it's a whole new life, you know.
different. Yeah.
And I loved it. I love it that you're being so transparent, Charles, because I appreciate it. One, that you trust our community, our audience to say that, but also it walks a line between, you know, many of the people in this industry, right, in the personal development sector, like to focus on trying to give people a hook of like, come to my program, you'll make more money, or I'll make you happier, right? And we don't do that because I can't do that for you, right? So this kind of way of we ask people to focus on the vision first is a little bit ambiguous to the point where it brings up a lot of fear.
Yeah.
Right. And so that fear and that overcoming that fear is mostly about building more confidence in yourself outside of, like you're saying, the car, the title, the apartment, like building outside of those structures of traditional success. When you were able to see yourself beyond those check boxes of what you should be, what was the next possibility that came up for you, or maybe what's next now?
So here's what I'll even say, even before going into what's next. So going through that process of redefining my vision, my skill sets, my passions, getting so ridiculously specific. I remember doing that work with you, like getting so specific. It wasn't just, oh, I want a house. What color is your house? How many rooms does your house have? What's the carpet look like? How does the carpet feel? How many cars are in the drive? Like, I mean, it was something that I'd never done before, because it was just, okay, house, car, you know, title, salary. That's just kind of the generic stuff. And so when I was kind of in that different space of opening myself up to these kind of, you know, different possibilities, there was a woman who was actually walking up the there was a woman who was actually kind of pushing her cart up a hill, because where I live in the Bronx, there's a lot of hills. And so she was pushing her laundry cart, and I'm looking at this woman almost like vertical, like, you know, heavyweight, pushing it up. And I was just driving by. I think I was going to the supermarket. I don't know where I was going. I was driving by. And then all of a sudden the idea was like, why isn't someone delivering this laundry for her? And it wasn't because she couldn't do it herself. It was like, if she had the option of having this delivered and it was at a price that made sense for her, I'm almost certain she would be interested in that.
Exactly.
And mind you, I've seen people pushing carts. I used to push carts before I moved into a building that had laundry.
Right.
Winter, summer, it's just what you do.
Yeah.
And so the thought had never crossed my mind in all those years until I was more open to actually inviting ideas into the space that I was in. So so that's what I'll say about that. And what's next for me and for this laundromat. So since I started the delivery business for both residential and commercial clients, I'm now a vendor with the Department of Education. So what that means is that I am now licensed with the DOE to provide laundry service for families and students in all of the public schools in New York City.
Wow.
And so that is something that I'm looking forward to. I was just registered before the summer started. So this was in like late May.
Yeah.
And so now looking into this new school year, I'm already working with a few principals who are going to contract my services, specifically providing it for families in temporary housing. So the shelters will now have their laundry service paid for through the school, and it's not just getting a laundry card, but I'll actually, my company will come and pick up their laundry at the shelter, process it, fold it, and bring it back to them so they get served with dignity. And so going back to service, right? Like I didn't know that this was a part of service, but here it is.
Yeah.
I actually get to focus on a population that I always wanted to.
Yeah.
That's the delivery business. And the laundromat is the goal is that this becomes one of several laundromats that we own. The goal is to have at least one laundromat in every borough in the city of New York.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there to be able to expand beyond. So there's a lot that I want to see happen, and there's a lot that I know will happen. But it's gonna take some steps. So
yeah, but what you're saying is, really the two keys here, right? You gave yourself permission, and you were open to a solution that wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
Right. And I think when we think about the way that transformation happens, whether people have a faith practice or not, what we're talking about is building faith, right? We're talking about how do you consistently open yourself to what we call in our practice the land of solution, rather than leaning on your logic and intellect to give you the same result that you've been getting, just looking different in a different space, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll say that work continues. I still find that kind of nature that I have creeping in. Even when I have the laundromat, it's like, okay, here's an idea that I have, and I find myself getting stuck in the planning or in like, is this going to work? When's the right time to execute this? What if people don't like it?
Yeah,
that those thoughts are still with me. They haven't disappeared.
Right.
With the tools, I'm able to apply, and I'm able to say, okay, we've been here before.
Yeah.
Like, we know that, if we actually make some effort here, that things can work in our favor. We don't have to live in that fear anymore. So I don't want to give people the impression that it's like, once you're off, you're off.
Right.
Like, never back. It's like, it still lives there.
No, it's a practice. And I want to say that I'm glad you said that, Charles, because, you were the minority in the room, like most men are in our programs, right? But what would you say to, men out there who want to do this work, but think they can't do it in a group of women, or, because quiet is kept, y'all, 80% of the self-development industry is women. Right. Like that's just what's happening out there. Right. So what would you say, Charles, or what was the tipping point that made you say yes to yourself, not to me, to you?
So if I remember correctly, I was the only male in that group. What was the tipping point, and what would I say? Wow. I think it's not because I can't figure out what to say. It's because just being who I am, there's something very it's very humbling and vulnerable about going through that process.
Mm-hmm. It is, yeah.
To go from, I had an executive level position, I'm driving this car, I'm providing for my family, to I'm unemployed, my wife is bringing in more money than I'm bringing in. Mm-hmm. I got to tell the kids we can't take that trip this year. We can't go out to eat tonight because, we got to conserve. Those are some hard pills to swallow. I'm not even gonna pretend like I was just like, no, believe in this vision. That's gonna figure it out. Like, I'm not even gonna pretend like that's who I was. And one of the things that was really critical for me, and still is, was there were two men in my circle of friendship who I could go to and say, I don't feel like a man right now. I'm not a provider right now. I'm not doing what I feel like I should be doing. And if there's an opportunity for you to tap into your support, or to identify support, because sometimes that support may not be in your immediate area, then I would say go and find someone who is willing to be part of that support for you. Because, I think sometimes the mentality of, hey, I'm on the floor, I got to pick myself up. I think sometimes as men gets us in trouble unnecessarily. Like, like, it's like we have to do it on our own. It's like, no, you don't.
Yeah. Nobody grows alone. You actually didn't get to the floor by yourself, so you're not going to get up from the floor.
But that mentality sometimes, I think, is we add unnecessary weight and challenge to things that just don't need to be there, because we're stuck in this. And I trust me, I get it. I'm not trying to diminish what that is like, because society says this is how you do it as a man. So really, being in a circle that you trust, finding a circle that you can trust, where you can be vulnerable, where you can really get those things out, so that you can then be able to help and work with someone who can help you identify some steps forward. So it's not about just like getting your feelings out so you can just talk and vent, but so you can actually begin to work on some viable solutions is something that I would say was really critical for me. And two friends that I have who are still my best friends to this day were very important along this entire journey, because again, I didn't see it happening, but they were actually the ones who were like, hey, if you can figure this out, you've got something here. So
no, that's great. Because, okay, y'all, if you're just tuning in, if you have never been a part of the Steps and Stages community, if you've never been to Vision Camp, let me just tell you we have some core values here at Steps and Stages. We have 3 C's. They're clarity, confidence, and community, right? We believe in getting clear on the vision. We believe in building confidence rather than integrity. Integrity is great, but integrity is those agreements you keep with other people, and confidence are the agreements you keep with yourself, right? So we're worried about what's happening on the inside, regardless about the outside. And then community, because we don't believe anyone changes alone. What Charles is giving a great example of is what we call partners in believing. So anytime we bring new clients in, we bring you in a cohort, because we don't want you to feel like you're trying to change in front of the people who may not know what you're doing. That's weird, right? We want to make sure that you at least have a community that reflects back the vision that you're building, at least for the time period that you're getting your footing, or getting your foundation built. Again, I'm giving everybody from me, free admission to Vision Camp virtual on August 19th. Go to ssvisioncamp.com. Now, you heard Charles mention the pre-coaching and the pre-work. That's a VIP ticket. If you want to upgrade, I'm more than happy to see you in that VIP room, but I'm covering everyone's general admission. Now, Charles, we got one more question. Oh, were you going to say something?
I was just jealous that
I know, we've never done this.
I'm like, why was that available when I was doing this? But anyway,
I know we have never done this. And you've worked in nonprofits, right? And so have I, Charles. So we know that actually free doesn't get more people in the room. Right? It's the mentality. Nothing's going to change, but I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to take down that barrier just in case people want to second guess themselves and say, oh, I can't spend that money right now. Right? That's out of the way, right? Like, get in the room, get the information. You can see that in Charles's life, it was 2 years ago and it's still having an effect. This is not about feeling good for a couple hours. This is about doing the real work. Right? Charles, we got one more question for you, then we'll let you go. We don't want the people in the office to be mad. We have a question each season here on Wisdom Wednesday. And our question this season is from a Don DeLillo quote that says, "The family is the cradle of the world's misinformation." So we're asking all of our guests this season, what was some misinformation you may have gotten from your family that you had to relearn or unlearn as you were pursuing your life or your vision?
Wow. Just one? All right.
Yeah, or anyone you want to share.
I think so my family was very hardworking. So I come from a Caribbean background. So both my parents are from the Bahamas.
Okay.
Very hardworking people, and I don't know anyone in my family that owns a business, that was trying to own a business, or that taught that ownership was even a path to take. So from the time that I was a young kid, it was, here's your path to success. You're going to find a place, and you're going to work there as hard as you can.
Yeah.
And you're going to show up, and you're going to be on time, and you're going to be professional. And as long as you stay on that course, your life is going to be secure. Your opportunities are going to be available. And I took that with me for a very long time. That as long as you follow the path and you stick to the rules and you check the boxes, then you're going to get the reward in the end. Mm-hmm. And I I don't regret that information. I don't hold that against them, because that information took me an extremely long way in my life, and quite frankly got me to where I am, if I'm going to really be all the way honest about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
But now when I talk to my kids have seen this journey. Like, my kids came up with the names of the laundromats and Loving Laundry were names that my kids came up with, because when I was at the table with them and said, hey, dad's not working right now, but dad's working on a plan to get a business, and this is the kind of business we're going to have. And like, my daughter goes with me when I pick up laundry. She's a part of the business. Like, my son helps to clean the machine. Like, they're part of this now.
Yeah.
And so having the ability to now show my kids that ownership is not only possible, but it's an expectation.
Yeah.
It's something that I didn't get. So I would hope that for any family, that regardless of where they're at, I'm not coming from well means here. I don't want there to be any misconception about, having any kind of trust fund or any bank accounts that didn't exist for. But even then, understanding that ownership is an option, and so I would say that that's something that I'm pretty proud that I can actually introduce that to my kids and expect them to pass it on to their generation.
I love it, right? Because the vision is not just for you. And this legacy that you're building is going to last for generations to come, mentally, physically, emotionally. Like, it becomes entwined with the family and the life you're living. Charles, I'm just so proud of you. I hope somebody has said that to you today. If they haven't, listen, I'm proud of you, brother. This is amazing.
Thank you.
This is good. If y'all are still out there and you do not have your ticket to Vision Camp Virtual, I don't know why. Charles doesn't know why. I mean, I'm giving it to you out of the goodness, as they say where I'm from, out of the goodness of my heart. Like, I just want everybody to feel free. That's the real essence of this. I don't do this work because I'm some guru sitting on a hill. I do it because in every evolution of my life, I've had to ask myself, what are the real questions and what's the essential growth aspect here? And the only way we do that is by finding a vision, not temporary motivation and not quick fixes to our problems. You got to have something big enough that allows you to grow and allows you to become exactly who you are. So if you don't have your ticket, jump over to ssvisioncamp.com right now. And I hope I see you there on August 19th. Give yourself the gift and accept it from me. Any last words for our people, Charles?
It works.
It works.
Put too much pressure on you
No, it's okay.
But I can't thank you enough. I'm not getting paid for this. This is not paid promotion. I was more than willing to show support to Coach Christal for helping me at a time when I honestly did not know what my next move in life was going to be. So what I have here behind me, and I told her this on Facebook, I told her that she was the foundation for really getting me started for what I have now. So I want to sincerely just say thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for trusting me. It's a big leap of faith, right? So listen, if y'all are ready to take the leap, jump over to ssvisioncamp.com. Don't miss it. It's my gift to you. And it's really about you growing into who you're supposed to be. We love you. We hope we see you again on Wisdom Wednesday. Thank you, Charles. Have a good night, everybody.